Oh, hold on. Hey, friends. Welcome back to the Yin and Yang Healing Podcast, exploring beyond the physical with Kirstin and Youre. I'm so excited for today's podcast because I want to talk about we've been on this like saga with our personal lives and our business and just exploring like the ups and downs of all of that. And I just want to dive into a piece that I've been working through, which is charging what you're worth.
Mm.
And it's been like brewing for me for a little while, and I seen this post. My sister sent me this girl who's kind of like doing what I want to do, but like in a different niche about like doing like a longer program with like a smaller amount of people and charging like a higher price. And I was like, ultimately, like that's what I'd really like to do. And so I started following her, and she's like from around my area, and she made this post, and it had to do with, like, charging what you're worth, and she just kind of, like, totally, broke down, like, that narrative of, like, you have to charge, like, what you're worth and, like, charging this, like, really high amount and, like, even though, like, her program is, like, a certain amount, I think it's, like, 2,000 or something dollars, but her post was really interesting, and it got me thinking about the way that my brain thinks about what I'm worth. And it's interesting when you like pick that apart of like how do you determine the price? Like how do you determine what you're worth earning like when you're working with people?
Mhm.
And so after seeing that post, and it's funny because I'd been stuck on a really long time like with clients like one-on-ones and like I literally have changed my price like 3 or 4 times trying to find like, hey, what's a sweet spot of like what I'm worth, what clients can afford, and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's been like a really interesting journey of like figuring that out and figuring out, okay, like what am I worth? Like what is a good price to charge people? And like where's my ego like playing into all of this? And yeah, so it's been interesting. That was a very eye-opening post that she made.
So I guess this like is interesting, I guess, especially for people who aren't, let's say, listening and have a business or charging something. It goes back to like self-worth, right?
Mhm.
Or where did it lead for you anyway?
Um, it's interesting because it's like before I read that post, I was already like having this like internal struggle of like, well, what do I charge, right? And so I kind of went through this phase of like, okay, no, I need to like charge what I'm worth and I need to charge more. Because just looking at what other people were charging in this industry, I was like, I'm not charging that much, to be honest. Like I would see people charge like $222 for a 90-minute virtual session. And I was charging like 215 for an in-person 2-hour long session that included integration practices, that included um like, a follow-up call for support. And yeah. So I was like, like, so then I kind of was like fighting with myself. I'm like, everyone's like, well, like you should charge more and that. But it's just interesting that the place that I was in particularly and where I was getting clients, um, because on one hand of like what I'm worth charging and what I'm offering, like the value that I'm also offering with my program, it was interesting where I happened to be placed, like the setting in which I was doing my practice and getting clients, because the people that I was meeting are people who couldn't afford that price. And so, like, yeah, I could have went online and like got a lot of clients online and stuff like that, but still, it's a lot of work to do that because you have to explain to people why they want to use emotional healing for their chronic pain instead of like medication or vitamins and supplements and whatnot, right? So I was like, oh,
Mm.
like that's a lot of work and really stressful to me to have to do all of that before you start building up that clientele online. So I was like, okay, have these clientele in front of me. I have access to like so many people. Like I'm talking to like probably 1,000 people every week.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
Yeah, so it's really great, but the number one thing is, like, people are like, "Well, I can't afford it, I can't afford it, I can't afford it." There's a lot of seniors that come in, you know, a lot of, like, low-income families where they're just trying, they're trying to, like, support their health with vitamins, and they're struggling to, like, stay afloat, and they're like, "Oh, this other thing, like, it sounds really cool." And, like, yeah, I understand what you're saying about emotions and the connection, mind-body connection, but I just can't afford it. I can't afford that initial investment, or I can't afford, like, the follow-ups. And, so I was like, "No, I'm just not gonna, like, do that anymore. I'm only gonna offer, like, the high ticket, like, program." And literally my mom was like, "Are you okay?" Because I kept changing my price and changing my, like, ideas, and I was like, "No, and I'm not gonna do one-on-one sessions like that anymore." And I was kind of all over the place because I didn't really know what to do, because it didn't seem like charging my worth and being able to get the clients who needed this work, it didn't seem to match. Like, it wasn't,
Aligning.
yeah, it just wasn't aligning.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, essentially through all of that and this crazy, like, roller coaster of, like, figuring that all out, I just kind of had these kinda like downloads or, like, revelations inside where it was like, "What's the purpose of you doing what you're doing?" And I was like, "Okay, well, the purpose of me doing what I'm doing is to help people. That's what I love doing. I love helping people, like, above what I'm worth, above, like, money, above anything else. That's why I work at the health food store, because I love helping people." So I was like, "Okay, let's look at that. I love helping people, but my worth of, like, what I'm charging is getting in the way of that." Right? And so I was like, and then I kept seeing, like, these posts too. Like, it was interesting because people have been, like, random people that I follow were, like, posting these things of, like, charge what you're worth, and, like, don't undercharge yourself, and all this, like, stuff. And I, instead of agreeing with it, I was actually looking at it of, like, I was actually, like, kind of coming from, like, an ego place a little bit. Like, and it's not to say, like, don't charge, like, what the program or the session is worth and value.
Mhm.
But I was like, the value in it for me is not just, like, the monetary value. There's other value in it for me. When I'm, like, helping a lot of people, that gives me kind of value that's deeper than money, I guess. And so I kind of was just having this, like, revelation and realization that it's not just the money that gives me the worth, it's working with these people and helping these people overcome things that, doctors or blood work says, like, "Oh, you're fine." But very clearly they're not fine, right? Or
Mhm.
they've been struggling with, like, chronic pain for, like, 10 years, and then they come see me, and they're finally, like, getting their life back, or their relationships are changing, and they're not so, like, depressed and sad and overwhelmed, right? And I'm like, "That's what's important to me." So I kinda went from, like, this self-worth and, like, the money piece of my worth, and I'm like, "That's actually not aligning with me anymore, of, like, the money piece." Like, obviously, I wanna be compensated for my time or spending with people, but what makes me feel worthy is being able to offer this service to people who have been stuck for so long, and they've already tried so much, they've already, like, spent so much money, they're already so defeated. And so, essentially, I just kinda came to this, like, point where I was like, it's more worth it to me to work with more people and help more people than it is for me to charge a high price.
Mhm.
And so essentially I came to this, like, point where I had thought about it before about lowering my prices, and I did, but my ego was still, like, super in the way. So, like, I lowered them, but, like, it still wasn't enough because, like, I still had people come in and they're like, "I just, like, can't afford that. I can't afford $149 initial, and then I can't afford, like, $129, like, follow-up sessions. I just can't afford it." And I was like, "Okay." So, just feeling really frustrated with that, but now I've dropped my price, like, super duper low. Like, it's crazy how low it is and the value that it is, but I feel so good about it. I feel so happy. I feel so light. I've already gotten, like, 4 new people to book. I had a regular client rebook, and I haven't even, like, pushed it out to all my clients that I've changed my price. And so it's just
Sweet.
interesting how if you remove your ego can you see what other ways you can you have like see your worth that's not just like monetary,
Mhm.
then yeah,
Yeah,
then
I
what
think
else is
that can,
possible?
for sure, and I think that could be applied to like other aspects of life too. It's like how many people feel like their worth is, I don't know, the first example that comes to mind is being a mother, for example.
Mhm.
It's like what other possibilities are there for you? What other things could you be doing to show your worth to your children, to your family, to your spouse? And then yeah, like same with business. It's like, do you
Yeah.
have to be making, I mean, some people do like value money that much where they're like, my time is worth $10,000 an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And other people just find the value in, like you said, doing what they love.
Mhm. Yeah. So
So how
yeah.
can you get out of your own way? How can you remove your ego from whatever you're going through to
Mm.
open up your possibilities?
Yeah, like there's to me, like now there's just like all these possibilities, and I still have like my high ticket program for people who really want to like go full throttle. Like it has 20 more things involved in that like 4-month program than it does to just do one-on-one sessions. But
Mm-hmm.
now like it's just so much more satisfying for me because now the price is so affordable that it would be hard for people to say no, right? And I know that they need this work like more than what I'm worth. I know that they need this healing so badly because they're suffering. They're suffering in pain. They're suffering with chronic indigestion, and they're, about to go for surgeries and all these things. I'm like, man, these people are suffering. Like they need me more than ever. And who am I to block people with my worthiness price of
Mm-hmm.
these people being able to like receive this healing that they desperately need? And I would rather now, I'm like, I would rather have people sign up for 8 sessions than have them sign up for one session that's $200, because there's so much more value in that for them, and there's so much more value in it for me as well as a practitioner if they're doing 8 sessions and seeing like that life transformation. That's also giving me like, another testimonial of like what happens after 8 sessions.
Yeah.
So I started to see like the value in like lowering my price in a different kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of work too is very much um like when people see what other people have done with it. So like being able to get those testimonials will be big because it's like it's hard because of the way our society has sort of like programmed us to
Yeah.
think like to not um take into consideration how emotions affect the body and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
It's like it's hard for most people, I would say, to wrap their heads around how that can truly affect their life and their health until they see it, until they experience it, until they see what it's done for someone else. So
Right. And like honestly, like my virtual price now is so low. It's just like it really, because I was like thinking in my business too, I'm like, there's all these like barriers, and the biggest barrier is like the investment, the financial investment. Like a lot of people I'll talk to, and they're totally on board, and they do. They're at the health food store, they're already like hot, like they're already alternative, they're already into like acupuncture and like vitamins, and like, they're already, not all people, but like I would say way more than half are already there. The
mhm,
barrier for them is like, well, I can't afford that because I don't know about this practice. It's new to me and I don't know about it. And I don't know what's going to happen out of it, and I can't like invest that money. So then they just don't do it, and they keep coming back to the store with like the same ailments and the same complaints, and they're spending so much money on supplements. It's insane. It's insane. I'm like, dude, like you're not getting to the root of the problem. You're just managing the problem, which is a-okay, but like you're spending like $400 a month on sale day. So like that's 25% off. You're spending a shit ton of money on supplements every single month just to manage it, but what if it could go away?
Mhm.
So it's like, what happens to people if I remove that barrier? And I have 2 options. I have a super duper cheap virtual option. It's super duper cheap. Like it's so hard to say no. And if you can't do the virtual, even the in person, it's a little bit more, but it's still super duper affordable. So it's really hard to say no
It'll
because I'm
probably cost
sure
you less than a tank of gas.
probably, yeah. Well, the online for sure. Like the online is like you'll never see that price for this kind of healing. And it's not about me trying to like get more clients like through the price of like, oh, well, I'm way cheaper than other practitioners or anything like that. It's just a matter of like people need this. They need it so bad. And I just want them to feel like, okay, $30 or $50, yeah, I could afford that to try it out. And I know once they try it, then they're gonna feel good about it because people always feel lighter after the first session. Like even if there's no major shifts, they always feel like they're like, yeah, I feel a bit lighter, you know? And I
Mhm.
want that and the price to encourage them to come back. And then when they have that experience and it's so affordable, then they're going to tell their friends about it. And even if they're skeptical, it's so cheap that it's like, well, why not try it? You have nothing to lose. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, thinking big picture of like helping people instead of like my worth, like what I'm charging.
I feel like that also is a big barrier just in the alternative health field in general is
Mhm.
that I mean there's more companies now covering some portion of it for healthcare, but I feel like
Yeah, like under
majority
like,
still doesn't cover a lot of this kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
yeah, I could see how that could be a really big barrier. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how much gas is out there right now, but here it cost me like around like pretty close to $70 to fill a tank of gas.
yeah. So it'd be less than it taking gas.
So there you
And
go.
yeah, and I was like, "Hey, how can I also make it for people that they take this more seriously?" Right? Because to me, this is very serious. Like whenever somebody talks about something, my mom's friend, for example, carpal tunnel, and she's like, "Well, what can she do for this?" And da da da. And they want to like take her into, maybe have a surgery and yada yada. And I'm like, "Oh no, like no." And then she's like telling me like these things, and I'm like, honestly, I'd have to talk to her to like recommend any supplements or anything like that because I don't know what her gut health is like. Like, I don't know, like, what's happening. I have to talk to her to ask questions. But then I, like, sent her, like, the picture from, like, my metaphysical anatomy book, and then my mom comes home, and I was like, "So, like, what'd she say? Did you show her the pictures?" And she was like, "Yeah, that's, like, her to a T." And I was like, "Yeah, exactly. Exactly." And I'm like, to me, everything is emotional. Your body's always, like, showing the physical symptoms to get your attention. It's a communication, it's a signal. But it's not
Hmm.
that like, oh, you just have carpal tunnel just because like your body is shitty and it's just broken. It doesn't know what to do. It's just in pain. You need surgery. Remove this, remove that. Like it's like that surgery is going to be like another trauma to your body. So it's like if you could prevent
Hmm.
that, why wouldn't you prevent it?
Yeah, it
But people are
pains
going to
me.
choose a surgery because it's paid for. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the surgery is paid for and $149 session is not paid for. And so when someone's struggling financially, it's hard for them to be like, let me try this new thing that you claim is so easy to like heal the body. They're kind of like,
Hmm.
okay, well, that's a risky investment for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I like on the topic of surgeries, it pains me when I hear people going for especially like because you also mentioned like gut surgeries where people, like get parts of their fucking guts cut out and all this. And I'm just like, oh my
Oh, I
God, that
know.
is so
No,
how destructive to your body is that? Like that is basically your other brain and to fucking cut that out and all everything it's like yeah it's mind-boggling to me that
I know.
emotional healing doesn't come before that extreme surgery like to me
I
that's
know.
extreme so
Even still, like there's a really great product that I like. We sell so much of it at the store because I'm like the gut FX queen. It's a product called Gut FX. And it's like a miracle product. Like it helps so many people, because what people don't realize is that it doesn't matter if you cut foods out of your diet. It doesn't matter. Like your gut doesn't care. It needs that support to regenerate the mucosal lining. And you have to manage the stress. The stress damages the lining of your gut, and that's how you get severe inflammatory disorders and severe autoimmune conditions. So this product actually helps heal and soothe that so it can like repair itself. If you can repair itself, you don't need surgery. You don't need to cut it out. You don't need to anything. But there's still like that thing out there where doctors are telling people, "Oh, you can't heal from IBS or Crohn's or colitis." Like it's just we don't know. You can't heal from it. You just have to live with it. And that's
Yeah,
total like
IBS.
a crock of shit.
The the fucking blanket diagnosis for all gut shit that they can't explain. It's IBS, irritable bowel. Well, like if you really break it down, it's like irritable bowel. It's like, well, what the fuck are you irritated about?
Yeah. I know. And like what in your life are you
It's like,
not digesting? Like
let's
what
check out
in your life are you not
the
absorbing and
emotions.
assimilating?
Let's check out the emotions. So, small
I want
intestine.
that poster.
I mean, you could be maybe irritable about some betrayal or maybe some unrequited love. Maybe you feel insecure. Large intestine. I don't know if you can see this on here, but grief, rigidity, like defensiveness, confusion. Anyway,
Yeah.
I know I love that poster. It's so sweet.
Where'd you get it? 'Cause it's got the other stuff on it. Did you make it?
Yeah, it's got like the chakra stuff on it as well.
Yeah.
That is from Empowered Healers Academy.
I want to get
Love
it.
them. Yeah, you
Yeah.
should ask them
Get it.
if they'll if they have any left, but it's sweet. And actually I can't remember if it came with a little poster holder or not. I might have had to order that. But anyway, great to have just as like a quick reference. So it's like, where is your gut sitting? Like mostly in your sacral area. So front has to do with sexuality, creativity, self-worth. Yeah, and then there's a couple of statements on what you could say for that.
Yeah.
So self-worth, for example, I forgive myself for believing I cannot be a sexual and creative being. That is not proper. Or I forgive myself for believing if I am sexual, I'm in danger. It also, the back of your sacral energy has to do with receiving money, pleasure, and intimacy. So
Yeah.
I think too, it might possibly go up into solar plexus, depending on the person and their issue. But anyway,
Yeah.
just some cool shit.
And it's kind of like complex too, because it's like, where is the issue? Is it actually like in the bowels? Because like it could be like in the bowels, or is it in the stomach? Is the stomach like upset and emotionally blocked, and you're not digesting your food? Like I don't know, like there's so many like factors that cause like injury in your body, and then it's like you got to come to this work to figure out, okay, where is the root of that, so you
Right.
can like heal. And I already had a client who was diagnosed with um like very like early stages of colitis, and like very very early, and I just got her on like the gut FX, and we started doing like the emotional healing, and she's already like feeling so much better, so much better. And I'm like, you just saved yourself from, because they're very quick to like, even before like cutting things out, they're very quick to prescribe like, you know, steroid anti-inflammatories. And it's just like the inflammation is there for a reason, but you're just
Yeah.
gonna tell it to be quiet. Even like if you
Yeah.
take turmeric, I tell people, I'm like, turmeric is so expensive, okay? And you're taking turmeric to combat inflammation. But it's actually risky because you're unless it's an acute situation, right? That's the only time it's beneficial to you truly, because if you're using it, you have a chronic inflammation or chronic arthritis or like any kind of chronic inflammatory condition, you're just you're just telling the symptoms to be quiet. You're annoying and I don't like you, so be quiet for now. But you're not dealing with the reason that you have inflammation. There's a reason why you have inflammation. And once you get to the why, whether it's emotional or physical, that's when you actually like can heal. Your body's not healing if you're on like turmeric for like 3 years. Your body's not healing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to heal itself. So I just tell people anything chronic, I don't care what it is. Anything that's chronic, emotional, physical, whatever, it's emotional in root.
Right. Yeah,
Anything that
100%.
persists. Yeah.
It's basically lying within your subconscious, which is emotional. And it's I wish that I knew how to explain this better, but I'm gonna have to refer people to the book because it's so complicated that I don't think that I could verbalize it properly. Is the molecules, oh my god, what is that book called?
Molecules of emotion.
Yes, the
I'm reading
molecules
that
of
right now.
emotion.
Oh,
Candace
hurt.
Candace Pert scientifically proved that your emotions affect you at a cellular biological level, which is
Yeah.
so fucking interesting.
Which
And how
like
it
Joe
gets stored in the
Dispenza
body.
talks about it like a lot if you don't want to get all like hardcore sciencey. But yeah, it's all about the peptides.
Well, I feel like the reason why I bring up the science piece is because people are so quick to dismiss it like it's woo-woo, but really
But
it's
really, yeah.
based on science.
I had someone at the store literally say to me, they were like, I'm just gonna stick with the science because they're talking about like hormones and fertility. And I was like, this is science. Like, but whatever. I just some people I can just tell like their vibe when they're very quick to like shut it down. I'm like, okay, maybe next time I'll bring it up.
Yeah,
But
just
like it
refer
is,
them
it
to
is science. Yeah.
just refer them to the molecules of emotions. Be like, here, you go have a read about the science about it. Then get back to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's to me like emotions should be like the number one. That should be your first go-to. Like
Hmm.
whenever I'm going through stuff, I feel like everyone should have like the metaphysical dictionary. Like I run to that every time I any kind of and I like anything. Anytime I'm having anything like wrong, whatever, I don't even like go on Google and look it up anymore. I go to my emotions book. And sure as shit, every time I look it up, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going through that right now. Okay, gotta work through that, gotta, like, make changes, gotta, like, set some boundaries," or, like, there's always I read it and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, that makes sense of why this is manifesting."
It's funny because I feel like most people who aren't really like on this vibe yet, I feel like they get a little bit annoyed with me when I'm just like, ooh, let me look it up. And they're just like, no, it's just a fucking headache.
I
I'm
know,
like,
me too,
no, it's not.
I'm always looking it up. People get annoyed with me too because they're probably just like, okay, Kirstin. I think my mom even said to me one time, she's like, not everything is emotional. And I'm like, yeah, but it is. Because I've been working in this industry for a long time and now doing the emotional stuff. Like I have the two to compare it back to like to each other, you know? Like I have that knowledge of that industry, but then I have like the emotional knowledge. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it is emotional.
Like that is literally the human experience,
Like
is to
she was like,
experience
okay, so if
emotions in a
you
physical.
She's like, "So if you, like, fell and hurt your knee, is it emotional?" And I said, "Well, yes, but no." I'm like, "Well, maybe it is, because like, why did you fall and, like, hurt your knee?" I don't know, right?
Why weren't
Like,
you
maybe
paying
that is
attention
signs.
enough to keep yourself from falling?
Yeah, so I'm like, "Well, maybe it is, I don't know." Okay, but I was like, in the case that it's not, let's just say you falling and, like, hurting your knee had no emotional thing at all. If it's not emotional, that knee will recover very quickly in a nice time.
Hmm.
If it does
Yeah.
not recover and it starts to become chronic, it tells me that that injury occurred on purpose to get your attention on something
Hmm.
emotional, and the emotions are staying stuck in that part of your body so that you can address it. It's a gift.
100%.
It's your body's gift to you and saying like, hey, here's this little communication, something's up, like let's work through it.
Yeah, 100%.
I have a client now who like is booking with me like on the regular. And it's just so awesome because she'll like come in, she's like, yeah, this is like going on or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, like how long has it been going on? And she's like, 10 days. And I'm like, oh, bless you. Like, bless that you are like coming here and just like dealing with it like straight away, because some people will have that same problem for 10 years
Yeah,
instead of 10 days. And it's just like, oh, okay, 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever. And it's like this client knows now. They just know like, okay, I'm just gonna come and like whatever is like coming up in my life, whether it's a physical like discomfort or a blockage that I'm going through mentally, I'm just gonna like come and just boop, we get it over and done with. I'm like, this is so great because it's just we just work through it. It's just fast in an hour and poof, you like carry on with your life. Carry on your merry little way back to
for sure. Yeah, I
yeah, and
mean,
it's just so great.
I can personally vouch for that as well, because I struggled with my knee issues for 10 plus, I don't even fucking know how many years, more than 10 years, until I did emotional healing on it. I kept
I know.
the knee, like, I feel like the most fucked up thing about the injury is that when it happened, I was in physically great condition. I had no external forces. I was just running in a straight line and it just went, which makes literally no fucking sense. Why would your knee just like smash out, which you're doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like playing soccer, so like it didn't pull out when I was like fighting for the ball with someone else or like anything like that. It was just
Yes.
running in a straight line off the field. Um, and then for however many years after that, physio and all these like physical
Yeah.
attempts to rehabilitate it, kept pulling it, kept pulling it, kept pulling it, kept pulling it. And like freak accidents, even like how I stepped on the chair and the chair tipped over and fucking pulled the shit out of the knee again.
Yeah.
And
Your body was like, you're not avoiding this. Like we're just gonna keep coming, keep coming,
yep,
keep coming until you pay attention to
until
what's
the
here.
point where my body was like, if you're not going to listen to this for 10 plus years, I'm going to take out both your fucking knees. And it did. And I had no choice but to stop.
Yeah.
I think it was 9 days that I had to
And
stop.
I love working with the client who like just they get it. They just get that this work is important and like if I'm stuck on something, let's just heal it right away. I love that, but I also love working with the people who are like they've literally tried everything and their body just keeps on like telling them and like or they go to the doctor and like the doctor's like nothing's wrong. Like I don't know, like nothing's like nothing's wrong, but very clearly like something's wrong. And they're just like pushing on and pushing on. I love working with those people because what a miracle it is after all that time, after all of those things that you've tried to do the emotional healing and finally get freedom and release from that issue.
Mm-hmm.
What a miracle.
Well, we'll link to your booking page in the
Yeah.
description so peeps can get the sweet deal that you're offering right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that once you get fully booked, that's probably going to have to change to keep helping people. But the other thing too, if you want to just send me after this podcast the book, the metaphysical book, let's link to that too, just so people can get a hold of that.
Yeah, I definitely think everyone should have it for sure. It's such a it's yeah, it's my go-to.
Sweet.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, thank you all for listening. We're cutting this one a little bit short because I'm just like totally drained today, but and we're also going to be posting every second Thursday from now on
Yeah.
until we get a little more of a team behind us. So thank you everyone
Yeah.
for watching and listening.
Ciao.